Have the A's found a solution? No, but they have found a Band-Aid.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. If you don't believe me, how could I have a lower third where I'm called Sully? I have been a baseball podcaster for well over a decade now. I've been an Emmy-nominated television producer. I've appeared on HBO, and I have been a member of the Locked On Podcast Network for the last, 6 seasons, it seems like. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever it's called now on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. If you're watching us every single day, be sure to put down that hashtag EverydaySully so we know who's following us every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at PrizePicks. The easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to PrizePicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code all lowercase Locked On MLB for a first deposit match of $100. As you could probably guess, we are going to be talking about the A's situation, the Sacramento situation, and I am not the best person to talk about Sacramento sports, even though I've been to a Kings game. I've actually been to a River Cats game as well. But that does not make me an expert. Do you know who is an expert? Well, you know, the Locked On Podcast Network, we cover all your sports, we cover all your teams. We include the Sacramento Kings. So who better to bring on board than it's Matt George, the host of Locked On Sacramento Kings. How you doing, man?
I'm good, Sully. I wish I could say this was a good day. For some people in Sacramento, it is. I am not one of those people, but it's a pleasure joining you.
Well, before we get into this, I'm going to quickly do the trivia question from yesterday and see if Matt George knows it. The trivia question was, today, which is the fourth day of April, I almost said October, fourth day of April 2024, is the 50th anniversary of what historic baseball moment? Do you know what it is?
Oh, boy, I have no idea.
That's all right. Brian Colon knows, as does Everyday Sully listener Scott Horsemeyer, and a couple other people know. It was opening day in Cincinnati, and on the first swing of the season, Henry Aaron tied Babe Ruth's record of 714. He finished the 73 season one home run shy of Ruth. And that whole offseason, he faced death threat after death threat after death threat of people who wanted to make sure Ruth's record would never be broken. He came right up, first swing of the new year, boom, tied. And then went back to Atlanta to break it. But this is the 50th anniversary of him doing that, and a giant middle finger to horrible people. Speaking of horrible people, the A's ownership today announced that they are indeed leaving Oakland, to the surprise of nobody. They went crawling back for a disingenuous contract extension with the Oakland Coliseum. The city of Oakland said, yes, if you sign a $500 million year contract with us and everything. We all knew that wasn't going to happen. That was there to save face. And today they announced that for at least 3 seasons, they will be in Sacramento. So, Matt George, you are our resident Sacramento expert and member of all the media in Sacramento. I'm going to hand the reins over to you. You were at that press conference today. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what was announced, what was said, and what at least the short-term ramification is for the capital city of our state?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, I need to establish my perspective on everything. I'm a diehard Oakland A's fan. I grew up an Oakland A's fan. I grew up going to the Coliseum. My grandma would take me to at least one game every single summer. So in my opinion, the A's only belong one place, and that's Oakland. So even though the A's, my favorite team, is coming to Sacramento, my home city, I am 100% with every part of my being against this move. Honestly, part of me wishes I was selfish enough to be able just to say, oh, well, great for Sacramento. And there are a lot of people here in Sacramento that do feel that way. It is, for or in many ways, it is a great day for Sacramento, but I simply cannot feel that way. But still had a job to do, going to cover the press conference this morning that was held at 10 a.m. The news broke officially. It was reported last night that this was probably happening. The news broke officially at like 7:30 this morning Pacific time. And then they said, oh, yeah, there's going to be a press conference at 10 a.m., giving our friends at the Bay Area media almost no time to gather together, get in a car, and get down here, which I think was by design. This announcement also came as soon as the A's left on a road trip, which I also think is by design here and just a classic play from this ownership group's playbook.
Can I just say one thing? The Irsay and the owners of the Baltimore Colts would look at this and say, oh, this is kind of sleazy. I mean, because really the Colts left in the middle of the night before anyone could figure out what was happening. And so there could be no press and everything like that, just the trucks leaving from Indianapolis. And even that is starting to look classy compared to what the A's are doing right now. I'm sorry. I digress.
And I see Jeff's comment.
Jeff Cohen is an everyday Sully listener and diehard Mets fan. And he says, what's the distance between Oakland and Sacramento?
Roughly commute-wise, I'd say an hour and a half, hour, 45 minutes. That doesn't include morning traffic, which is what everybody had to battle through in order to get from Oakland to Sacramento this morning. So either way, it's a short period of time for such a monumental press conference, but it was held at Southern Health Park. I thought it was fitting that this was a cold and gloomy day in Sacramento. It literally started raining maybe a minute before the press conference began. The press conference began with all sorts of microphone issues with the wind and with feedback and stuff like that, which just felt
appropriate.
It did feel appropriate in many ways. Now, I sat right behind Dave Cavil, A's president, a man that I'm not a very big fan of. I sat about 10 feet away from John Fisher, a man that I'm definitely not a fan of. There's so many things from this press conference, Sully, that we could talk about, and I'm happy to answer your questions, but a couple key takeaways that are worth noting. Number one, as soon as the press conference was over, John Fisher left without answering any questions and disappeared before the media could even get a hold of him.
But what question could anyone possibly have? Isn't everything solved? Hasn't he been up front with the media?
Absolutely not, and he deserves to be put in front of the media and hung out to dry in a lot of ways for the things that he said that have been absolutely inaccurate and have dragged Oakland and specifically Oakland fans through the mud and made them out to be responsible for everything that's been going on, but I digress. Another thing to do with John Fisher. He had the audacity to step up onto the podium, grab a microphone, and say how exciting it was for the A's to come and play in Sutter Health Park. It's going to be the most intimate park in the league, and he can't wait to see players like Aaron Judge hit home runs at Sutter Health Park. Didn't name a single Oakland A's player. The owner of the A's said essentially that he's excited to watch opposing teams hit home runs against his team while here in Sacramento. That's a legitimate quote. You can go to my Twitter at MattGeorgeSack, and you can see the video that I posted where he says, not necessarily those words verbatim, but that is what he said. I'm just communicating it in a way that's not word for word. It was just Vivek Ranadive, who's the owner of the Sacramento Kings, who is a friend of Fisher, his words, not mine, and who helped facilitate this, is very excited, very happy about it. He has received no guarantee from Major League Baseball that this will result in Sacramento either keeping the A's if Vegas falls apart, or that the city of Sacramento will be a front runner or in pole position, as he likes to say, for an MLB expansion franchise, which I still think we're a long ways away from that. But it was a celebration amongst people who are extremely tone deaf to what is happening, and it was a completely unsurprising press conference that didn't really answer any questions, but celebrated what I think we all have known is coming for quite a while. And that's kind of where we're at.
And done in kind of a cowardly, cheesy way. How do I do this and sort of check the boxes of getting everything done and do it with the least amount of scrutiny and with the least amount of transparency, which I think should be written in Latin around the A's logo right now. We're going to hear from some of our sponsors in here for a second, but I do want to pick your brain, Matt George, about not just what this means to the A's franchise, but you point out a little bit what this could mean for Sacramento as a major league team or major league city? And are they even allowed that identity? You're looking for a great meal service that isn't going to break your bank. Let me tell you something. You got to check out Factor. You got to eat stress-free this spring with Factor's delicious, ready-to-eat meals. Every fresh, never frozen meal is chef-crafted, dietitian approved, and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. Choose from a weekly menu of 35 options, including popular options like Calorie Smart, Keto, Protein Plus, Vegan, or Veggie. Discover more than 60 add-ons every week, like breakfast, on-the-go lunch, snacks, beverages, to help get you fueled and feel good all day long. So what are you waiting for? Get started today and fuel up on your springtime goals. Get chef-prepared meals on the table in 2 minutes with Factor's ready-to-eat meals so you can get back to doing what you love this spring. Looking for gourmet meals? Try meals with premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, truffle butter, broccolini, and asparagus. No fuss, no muss, no mess meals. Factor meals eliminate the hassle of prepping, cooking, or cleaning up. Simply heat and savor the good stuff. Tailor your schedule. Customize your weekly meals with the flexibility and get as much or as little as you need. Pause or reschedule deliveries to suit your lifestyle. Factor is a solution for fast premium meals without the need of cooking. We're celebrating Earth Day all month long. Check out Earth Month Eats badge on the menu for the lowest carbon footprint meals. Head to factormeals.com/LockedOnMLB50 and use code LockedOnMLB50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next box. That's code LockedOnMLB50 at factormeals.com/LockedOnMLB. Get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next box while your subscription is active. Did you know that PrizePicks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with over 3 million members? It's the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more than or less than on 2 or more player stats, and you're going to watch the winnings come in. Spring training is over. Baseball is officially underway, so don't miss your chance to add your favorite players for the Diamond and PrizePicks entries. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs, take your pick on more than or less than, add them up, and your PrizePicks entry today. Or in basketball, get in on the playoff action, win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks as you and the world's best players take aim in a new level during the basketball's postseason. So I got the app right here. Let me see where I'm going to go with. I'm going to go Brandon Miller. I'm going to go less than 18.5 points. And then Miles Bridges of Charlotte, I'm going to say he's got to go more than 19.5 points. And there you go. I've made my picks right there. So what you need to do is download the app today. Use code LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That is code LockedOnMLB after you download the app for a first deposit match of $100. PrizePicks, pick more, pick less. Do you know what? It's really that easy. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channel app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. And we're back here with Matt George. Thank you, Matt, for being with us through all of those ads. But speaking of ads, the A's are going to Sacramento, as we know. Do we know what they're going to be called? I know that's not the most important thing, but are they going to be the Sacramento A's? Are they going to be the Oakland A's of Sacramento? Are they going to be the Las Vegas A's of Sacramento? Or what the hell, just call them the Philadelphia A's of Sacramento? Why don't we go all the way back to Cornelius McGillicuddy, a.k.a. Connie Mack? All this, by the way, could have been avoided if Connie Mack had sold the team back in Philadelphia when he was starting to get senile. They'd still be in Philadelphia. It would be the Phillies who would have gone over, but that's another video that I already did. So, Matt George, what's the team going to be called next year?
You ready for this, Sully?
Oh,
They're
God.
going to be called the Athletics. That is it. No city, nothing. They are the A's or the Athletics. That is how they will play. Dave Cavell told us today that they will represent Sacramento with specific jerseys that pay homage to Sacramento in some way, but Sacramento will not be a part of their identity nor will Vegas until they officially get to Vegas. The A's are the Athletics or the A's. That is it.
They can't even do that right. I mean, if they're going to play in Sacramento, call them the Sacramento A's. Why not? If you're trying to at least, I don't know, get anyone excited to show up to your minor league ballpark, we'll get to that in a second, would it kill them? Would it kill them to be called the Sacramento A's? Wouldn't that be kind of sort of obvious? And yes, it would be kind of weird that you just had Sacramento for a little bit. I'll get to that in a second. But is it any weirder than there being a team called the Seattle Pilots for 1 year before they became the Milwaukee Brewers? Is it any weirder than having to be the Houston Colt 45s? I don't know. Neither do you. How can you not call them Sacramento? I don't know. My fantasy was that in those 3 years they were there, they would win the World Series. And so you would see Sacramento AL defeats, Los Angeles NL, whomever they beat. Okay, so they're going to be the A's. Again, if you're going to pick at something, pick it as stupidly as possible. What does this mean for the stadium? I mean, we've all been to A's games. I went to the last A's game of last year, and there was nobody there. The final A's game of the season last year, there was nobody there, and I mean, it probably was about 5,000 or 6,000, I think, tops. And in a stadium with 50 some odd thousand seats. It was Montreal-esque. And I went to game to Montreal towards the end of their run as well. It was eerily similar. So they're not expected to draw more than 8,000 a year now. And in the wake of this, 8,000 might be on a bobblehead night. What would you be expecting them to draw in the ballpark they have there, especially when they're the nondescript, non-city team?
I say this with full sincerity. I think this is going to be a really hot ticket. I think Sacramento is going to show up and show out, and it has nothing to do with the A's as much as it has everything to do with Sacramentans and Sacramento fans, both wanting to send a message to the MLB and the world that this is a sports town. Like, Sacramento recognizes that this is their probably only opportunity to convince Major League Baseball to actually bring a team here. So they're going to rally for that purpose and that purpose alone. Maybe in addition to that, the excitement of watching some of the biggest names in the MLB come through. If the Dodgers ever come through to see Shohei Ohtani, Aaron Judge was brought up literally by John Fisher. But when the Yankees come through, the opportunity to see Fisher potentially hit a ball into the Sacramento River or off the Tower Bridge. I mean,
see Judge, not Fisher.
Yes. Well, that potentially. I think Sacramento will sell out more often than not the ballpark to support baseball here in the capital city. Again, I emphasize, though, they're not going to be coming for the A's. They're not. And those who are coming for the A's are going to realize pretty quickly, and if they didn't already know, what Oakland A's fans have been saying and complaining about for the last 2 decades, or certainly the last couple of years, that the product that Fisher is putting out there is abysmal, embarrassing, and not worth the money that you're paying. So, I mean, this is also part of the reason why it frustrates me so much. Not only is Fisher pocketing the revenue from the TV deal that he had already negotiated in Oakland, which was one of the major reasons why he was okay and agreed to come to Sacramento in the first place, he's going to pocket revenue from ticket sales from people who are not paying for his product, but are paying to send a message to the MLB and paying to watch whatever other team comes through Sacramento to play the A's on that given night. Now,
I know we can't take Fisher's word for anything, including if he's indeed Fisher. If we find out later he is as an alias and something like that, then I don't think anyone could possibly be surprised by that. But there has been talk about what he has wanted to do before having the team go to Las Vegas was to try to build the team up both on the field and in payroll. So by the time they play their first season in Las Vegas, they're actually a competitive team, which would mean raising the payroll while playing in Sacramento, which seems impossible. However, if he's able to keep most of the NBC money and have a bigger gate than he had ever had in Oakland, could that be possible? And could he actually put a winning product on the field in Sacramento?
I think the only way he's putting a winning product on the field is if he stumbles his way into it, as in the players that he doesn't have to pay yet, the young players, the Zach Geloff and those guys, Tyler Soderstrom, that group of young crop of players develops into this window where, similar to the A's had in 2018 and 2019, when they had Simeon and Olsen and Chapman all hitting their stride at the same time and giving the A's a chance to win while not being up for their big payday yet. Like, that's the only reason how, in my opinion, how the A's are going to be competitive and potentially be the team that they claim they want to bring into Las Vegas with them. There's no reason to believe Fisher is going to change his ways of penny pinching, pocketing revenue share, and putting as little onto the field in terms of payroll as possible because now he's in a minor league stadium. It doesn't make sense. Fisher is who he is. He is the person that he's shown to be. There's no reason to believe he's going to act and operate any differently. And even if they go to Las Vegas with that terrible product that they've had, and they might or will probably continue to have over the next 3 years, even so, I don't think it matters that much to Fisher, because the second he gets to Las Vegas and that stadium gets built, his equity in that in the value of that organization explodes tenfold. So even if people aren't necessarily buying tickets right away, which again, the plan in Las Vegas is all about attracting tourism, not attracting an A's fan, because Las Vegas doesn't even want the freaking team. It's tourism that they're after, the tourism dollar. So I don't think Fisher gives a you-know-what about being competitive in Sacramento or in Vegas right away. He just cares about getting to Vegas and pocketing that money.
And I've been saying for well over a year that Vegas, if you made a Venn diagram of markets that are going to be a disaster for Major League Baseball, in the middle of that Venn diagram would be Las Vegas. There are viable markets I think could be a tremendous success. Nashville is the most obvious one. Charlotte is certainly one. I think Portland is one, possibly San Antonio or Austin, maybe a return to Montreal. I don't know, but to me, Vegas wouldn't crack the top 7. So naturally, that's the one they're hell-bent to get into. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the fact that this move to Las Vegas, is it going to be 3 years from now? Do we have any evidence of that? Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you could still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute while you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. Get this. Now through April 30th, Robinhood is boosting every single dollar you transfer from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right. No cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. This offer is good through April 30th. Get started at Robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. Now for some legal info. Claim as of Q1 2024 valid by Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of the first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA is available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, is a registered broker leader. This is a reminder that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's available on the Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV's channel app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows like this one, covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fires TV's channel app. Matt George of Locked On Sacramento Kings, I want to show you something here. This is a book that I got when I was in second grade, the All-Pro Baseball Stars 1980. when I really started following baseball in 79, 1980. And I wanted to show you the reason I'm bringing this specific book up was by the time this book went to print, they were not sure if the A's were going to play in Oakland or in Denver, because this was kind of a different period of time where the A's were not doing particularly well, not drawing particularly well, and they didn't like the Coliseum. So they were looking for other places to play. It's a very different era of baseball. And I want to show you, do you know how they were listed because they have like previews of the team. Like there's the Texas Rangers, Minnesota Twins. And when they came, it just is
the A's.
The A's.
Well,
so we're going back to 1980. Okay. Back when Pete Rose was a Philly. That's everything old is new again. The reason we're saying the A's because they don't want to make people in Sacramento feel as welcomed as people in Oakland regarding the A's. And I must say, I'll drink to that. Let's go Oakland. They're not going to put the Sacramento name on. I thought they just should have left the A's name in Oakland and maybe call them the Sacramento Solons as like the old Pacific Coast League team. Do we have any evidence that there's going to be a stadium in Las Vegas in 3 years?
None that, I mean, if anything, we should probably be more skeptical simply because John Fisher and Dave Kaval are involved in this entire process. I mean, that's why there was a fourth year negotiated in this agreement, a fourth year option in case it's taking its sweet time. But I also think, solely if we're being honest, that even though Vivek Ranadive, again, Kings owner, claims to be the friend of John Fisher and that the A's are moving into partnership with the Sacramento community and essentially the Sacramento Kings here, I think their new hosts are also quietly and maybe not so quietly rooting for their demise, rooting for this to fall apart so that here the A's are no longer headed to Las Vegas. They're here in Sacramento. Oh, here we go. The solution's right in front of you. Just keep them here. We'll build a ballpark, sell the team to our A's or our Sacramento-based ownership group. I think that is part of this. The Kings group and Vivek Ranadive will never say it. They certainly were going to say anything like that at the press conference, but I think that's also a big part of here. But I mean, at this point in time, the A's might say they're heading to Vegas, but those might just be road signs because I don't know how they're getting there.
There's no stadium there. The city doesn't want them. They've had literally years to figure out where they're going to put a ballpark. It is a city that is, sorry, Vegas, but it's a city that is a smaller media market than Sacramento and a lot of the other cities that don't have a team. And it's a city, by the way. And it's a city filled with transplants. And this is what we found out in Phoenix, we found out with the two teams in Florida. When you have cities with a ton of transplants, you don't get people to switch their loyalty quickly. There are more Yankee fans in Miami than there are Marlin fans. There are a hell of a lot more Cub fans than there are in Phoenix than there are Diamondback fans. So even when those two teams do well, both of them were playoff teams last year, they have trouble drawing. And it's even going to be worse in Las Vegas. And they still, like, the first drawing they made of a stadium, it might as well have been Hogwarts. It was just not based in reality. And so I have a feeling that they're going to be, I wouldn't be surprised if 7-8 years from now, they're still the A's in Sacramento as opposed to the Sacramento A's. But Sacramento makes more sense to me than Las Vegas, quite frankly.
And I think that's, again, part of the reason why Sacramento made this move. The one thing I'll say, if what you're saying is right, 7-8 years from now, the A's are still in Sacramento and not in Vegas yet, that means Rob Manfred's deal is up and hopefully he's gone and a new commissioner's in here that just wants to find a solution to this problem. And Sacramento, again, might very well be that solution. I do have a feeling, too. I get the sense, I don't know why MLB owners have agreed to waive the relocation fees to, again, make John Fisher's path to Las Vegas as easy as possible when he absolutely does not deserve that. He makes money off of them with revenue share every single year and puts an embarrassing product on the field that is basically spitting in the face of Major League Baseball. And he's done that time after time after time after time. So I don't know why they help him. And truth be told, I think they barely tolerate him. So I don't think if we got to a point where 7-8 years down the road, the Vegas thing still isn't happening. At that point, I'm hoping that the MLB is smart enough to force Fisher's hand and make him sell to a Sacramento or Oakland-based group.
Well, I'll tell you why they're doing it is because they want the expansion fees of the two new franchises, and the Rays are a whole other story that they want to build next to where they're currently located. When for the last quarter century, all I've been hearing is, well, the problem is the location. Well, I got an idea. Let's build in the same place, but they can't expand with the Tampa and Oakland situation still at hand. So they just want any solution for the A's. They want any goddamn solution for the Rays. Sorry for my language. Hope it's not a MA. That one slipped out. So they can expand probably into Nashville and probably into either Portland, San Antonio, or back into Montreal. By the way, my listener, NJ Max Rocks, makes a great sort of historical point. The Pilots were never meant to be 1 year Seattle franchise. The lawsuit of the A's bailing on Kansas City forced them to expand a few years earlier, and so therefore the A's weren't prepared. So it was the A's fault that they failed in Seattle, because if the A's just stayed in Kansas City and waited a couple of years, they would have gotten what became Kauffman Stadium, was originally called Royal Stadium, and that would be the A's park to this day. Chances are nobody goes to Oakland, and the expansion to Seattle works fine. So there's no Mariners as the Pilots, and who knows what happens with the Brewers. And there's a whole Jenga thing could have happened if only the A's stayed in Kansas City and waited a couple of years for what turned out to be probably the best of the late 60s, early 70s ballparks. But you know what? We can't be Superman. We can't spin the earth backwards and redo time. And I just think this whole thing has been a calamity, and they've acted like this is homework that they have to do on the bus, when this lease that they signed was in 2014, when they lost to Kansas City in the division series, in the wild card game, that brutal wild card game for A's fans. That was a while ago. They've had a long time to try to figure this out, and now they're in a situation where they don't have a stadium to play in, and this is kind of like 1980. It's a bit of an embarrassment. Matt George, tell me your final thoughts on this whole travesty.
Today is a sad day for Oakland A's fans who deserve so much better. I know the city of Oakland has not done everything correctly either. Look, they've lost all three of their major professional sports franchises over the span of 10 years, which is an embarrassment for them. But as much as they're embarrassed, Oakland fans are the ones that are paying for it. And even if it's an hour and a half or an hour and 45 minutes down the road, as long as John Fisher is still the owner of the team, I expect A's fans to not support, and they are in their right to do so. John Fisher does not deserve their support. John Fisher, quite frankly, does not deserve the support of the Sacramento fans that, again, are going to show up for Sacramento and not for him and not for the A's. So whether this is just a bridge, as Dave Kaval calls it, to get the A's to Las Vegas or not, we'll see how it all plays out. This is not a day worth celebrating, and I am a born and raised Sacramentan, but who was also raised a diehard Oakland A's fan. So it's a tough day, and we'll see how it plays out. But as long as Fisher's still in charge and Dave Kaval's still involved, expect things to go wrong, expect things to be embarrassing, and expect ultimately things to fail, because that is what their track record says is going to happen.
But you know what I have? Tickets for the last A's game. On Thursday, September 26th, a day game between Texas and the A's. Your pal Sully will be there. And those tickets were not hard to get. Matt George, tell people where they can listen to your terrific show.
Yeah, check out the Locked On Kings podcast if you're interested at all in Kings basketball. You can find that wherever you get your podcast. Just look up Locked On Kings, just like you look up Locked On MLB. And if you want to get involved on social media, not just with Kings talk, but with A's talk and everything going on with Sacramento and really Northern California sports, follow me on Twitter at MattGeorgeSac, or X, or whatever the hell it's called now.
And you can follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on whatever it's called now, and also on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully, Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. The trivia question, which you do at the end of every show, it's an easy one, or at least it's a simple one. Who is the last living Philadelphia A? We're down to one. Who is the last living Philadelphia A? And he was not an obscure one. He won some awards. So that is your trivia question. Who is our last Philadelphia Athletic? Put it down here in the comments. Talking about a sad day for Oakland and a weird day for Sacramento with Matt George of the Locked On Sacramento Kings. This is a Locked On MLB Locked On A's crossover. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.